So, as a melanated person that is born in this country, you are immediately introduced to a culture that is not your own. You are immediately introduced to a language that is not your own. And then you are forced to go to a school for 12 years where you are indoctrinated with the curriculum of the same people who colonized your grandparents and great-grandparents and before that. And then you're supposed to take that colonized education to go out into the world to find a job, a place to work. So then you have to put on your best outfit, put on your best white people face, and try your hardest to convince white people that you are not a threat, that you're educated, and that you are competent enough to do a job. Even though in the back of their mind, they're looking at you like, this nigga here. And although it's very discouraging, you still got to try to get a job, because if you don't get a job, you're not going to eat. So you play the game and you act like a good old boy so that you can go work for the sons and daughters of the colonizers who colonized your great-grandparents and grandmothers. And in that process, what you're working for has an illusionary value. Not just that, but you are reminded when you see this dollar, when you see these dead presidents on your money, that you are not free. And that you just worked really hard for a colonizer's company, and all you earned was some colonizer bucks that aren't enough to help you have a decent life. It's really just enough to keep you alive long enough to go back to the colonizer's company and make the colonizer more money. But it doesn't stop there, because like I already said, we know the money ain't worth shit, but they take the money that ain't worth shit from you. They tax you after you make the money. They tax you when you spend the money. And here soon, they're gonna start taxing you when you think about money. They're gonna call it a thought tax. But you see where I'm going here? This is just becoming more and more of a nightmare. And it only gets worse once you get a little knowledge, once you learn a little history, once you learn about how things are supposed to be. Because then one day you say, hey, this language ain't mine. This ain't my culture. I'm not supposed to live like this. None of this shit is normal. When you say stuff like that, and you go out into the world, they will gaslight the fuck out of you. These motherfuckers will have you convinced that slavery never existed, that there is no such thing as a system of white supremacy, and that you are just a lazy ass nigga who wants shit for free. And you should do better. And that shit right there will drive a nigga crazy. And then it's just so weird because when you look at the movies and shit, the same society that said your culture was backwards, that your indigenous culture was some savage shit, the same people that said that, they're trying to be you in all the movies. It just doesn't make any sense. In school, in the history books, they're like, look at those melanated savages. But in the movies, all these non-melanated people want to be indigenous. And they take the music, they take the clothes, they take the swag, they take everything. And then turn around and tell you, you need to speak proper English. What the fuck? This whole goddamn thing is a nightmare. But the good news is, every day, I'm seeing more and more signs that this nightmare is going to be over soon.
Now, as far as melanin goes, you know, allegedly everybody has melanin, just different types of melanin, but I get what he's speaking on, the copper-colored, so-called black people of America. It is wild out here, guys. I'm not going to sit here and lie, you know, from my experiences, and I've lived on different sides of the tracks. I've been predominantly white area, so-called white areas, predominantly so-called black areas, predominantly so-called Spanish area. Like I've been around, right? It does always feel like judgment. Always, I'm not gonna lie. To the point where Stockholm syndrome kicked in so bad from the Jim Crow era. And even prior to that, but I would say mainly this Jim Crow era, because it seems like after slavery ended, it feels like even when you look at what happened in history, like the ancestors, the people, they stuck together. You know, when you look at Seneca Village, when you look at Black Wall Street, when you look at these different communities, even communities I'm still learning about, I'm hearing about communities in Syracuse, and when you hear the stories of the elders of how tight-knit those communities were, to the point where everybody was like, a parent for each other's kids, and it was so safe a kid could sleep, outside at 4 a.m. on somebody's porch and be good. So it seems like after all those massacres and so much happened and all the race wars and all of, and just trying, it just seems like a certain Stockholm syndrome hit into where now copper colored people, they tend to take it out on each other so much, because it's like, it's a sick society, and this is not like everybody going through it in America. You get what I'm saying? Like everybody feeling it. But speaking specifically on copper colored people, we still figuring out who we even are. Who we even are, other than you were just brought over here from Africa. When someone's stripped of their last name, of their culture, of their, you get your tongue cut out for even reading a book, unless it's the Bible. But other than that, you get your tongue cut out. You get, like when you stripped of that for so long, that's gonna have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years that's gonna affect you. People, when you Irish and you got that Irish last name, you know where you came from. Polish, all you know where you came from. Out here, when you so-called black, so-called African American, and you really don't know where your last name came from. You're always told it came from a slave master, and even in a sense, there's lies within that in many cases too. When you start to find out, oh, what, really? It was from this or from that. Like, you were just always told to think one way. You were always told that this is what happened. And your spirit knew that's not the case. Right? And being around in society is like you always do gotta, in America, you always do got to go a little bit harder. Always gotta go a little bit harder. That's definitely how I be feeling. Dang, I didn't even know I'm sweating bullets, y'all. Still getting over this cold. Always got on my favorite Harry Potter hoodie, though. But, yeah, shout out to everybody out there. I've been listening to a lot of different perspectives. That's how you learn and you grow. Somebody commented on my channel the other day. They're like, I recommend you travel. And, yeah, when things get right with my situation out here and they fix some things, then, I'd love to, get on a plane and travel. But for now, this is why I'm just, I'm reacting. I react to so much different cultures and just, excuse me, and hear so many other different people talk because, I'm learning. I feel like it's people who can get on a plane and they can go all over the place and still not get it, still not actually appreciate the culture. So I feel like even just me with the heart and mind that I have, tapping into different cultures and learning, it definitely means a lot. So, but yeah, that's how it is out here. It's just people doing their best to get it together, and while they doing their best to try to when they learning, oh snap, there was we was in there was us in Russia or over here or over, to be gaslit and told, oh no, y'all don't got nothing to do with over here, or no, don't try to claim this, or don't, just go Africa. It's deeper than that. And we're seeing a shift where people are, and a lot of truth is being exposed, and we're at the beginning. We're at the beginning of the shift, y'all. But let me go rest, because I'm sweating bullets. Like I said, I'm still trying to shake this cold. And, yeah, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Much love.